The four trustees are present: Diane, Linda, Ken, and myself, and Dan Kopp from H2O Solutions, Rosemary, Gordy, Peggy, Jenna, and Kyle, and Donna for taking notes. We're going to start
on Zoom.
Oh, sorry. BJ, Darrell Westcomb, Jennifer, and Galaxy A20, whoever that is. I can't see the other, can't really see the other one.
It's just a phone number. Looks like. I want to ask who Galaxy A20 is.
Galaxy A20, could you identify yourself, please?
Yes, it's Kim Goodell.
Oh, hi, Kim. I'm going to change the order of the agenda a little bit to so that Dan, who's already, I believe, got more on his plate than he figured he would, can make his presentation and get out of here. All right. So, Dan, the floor is yours.
All right.
Thanks for coming.
Yeah. So back in March of 2020, we had a sanitary survey of the water system. That was kind of what we had for people that don't know. There'd always been some talk about Katie Wind pump stations, 3 booster stations up there. Whether Katie Wind owned them, whether the village owned them, whatever. It got looped into the sanitary survey. We found out that the village does own them. We have an easement for it, so it is our responsibility now. It'd been pushed off for 30 years, and now it's our responsibility. As part of that, all 3 buildings did not meet the sanitary survey specs. There's a smaller one, we call it, there's the main one is number 1, a smaller one, number 2, and a bigger one that's number 3 up further. The number 2 was, it actually had a concrete floor as one of the things it needed. It had a flood there and there was a foot of dirt in it, and we dug down and found out there was a gravel floor with a drain, so we dug a foot of dirt out of the whole thing, cleaned it all up, put a new roof on it, painted it. That building's good to go. So, and that was for like $350.
And that was number 2?
That was number 2. So that one, that one was an easy fix. The number 1, it was the main problem. That's where we get our coliform sample from. Once every 3 months is out of there. It was written up in the sanitary survey that it'd be of durable construction, fire and weather resistant with outward opening doors, which one door opens out, one door opens in. Have a floor elevation of at least 6 inches above finished grade, which it does not. It's about 1.5 feet below grade inside. Have underground structure waterproofed. It's a dirt floor. Have all floors drained in such a manner that the quality of the water will not be endangered. There is no drain. And all floors should be well drained. With positive slope, again, there's no drains. And that it should not have dirt floors, which are not conducive to protecting equipment and controlling rodents. So we submitted a plan, and the plan was to get an engineer to look at it and see what they could do. So that's where we're at as far as this. We did a grant for this, so it didn't cost us anything. So that's why we went that route to start with and see what they came back with. So they came up with 4 alternative plans. Number 1 plan is a cost of $361,000. It involves installation of a new packaged constant pressure pump station. It's in a different location than where meter house number 1 is. There's not a lot of room right there where number 1 is, and out of that building, all the lines go everywhere. So you really can't do construction around it because you're gonna have to disconnect water to everybody to do it. So it's actually moving it down in a spot where there's room enough.
Is there any problem with who owns the land where that goes?
We'd have to get an easement, again, from ship 7, we'd have to get an easement from them to move it, but they have the available land, so it's just a matter of having an easement.
And wouldn't you have to do it in the summer when you would have some temporary
Yes,
piping for the
you'd have to bypass-
residents?
Yeah, you'd have to bypass pump during all of that, so yeah, it would have to be a summer project. The current pressure tanks would not be used, everything would be moved to that one pump house. If you don't have any pumps or pressure tanks in any of those buildings, they become meter houses and therefore do not fall under the sanitary survey. So like we have meter houses down at Highland Heights, down here. They're not by the sanitary survey because all they are meters, no pumps or pressure tanks. This would eliminate the number 3 pump house from being considered for the sanitary survey going forward. We would have just that one pump house, and the existing pump house number 1 that we're looking at, that would just become a meter house then. So we could rehab the building, pretty much leave it as is. They would build an entirely new one with all of the pumps and all the pressure tanks we'd need for the entire building.
Are
They
all
rec-
the trailers, sorry, are all the trailers up there, or are they all connected?
To our system, except for there's a house and a garage that were there originally.
Right.
Those are not. And we'll get into what issues that is
All right.
later on. But other than that, all of the trailers are connected. There's a row of houses up on the further side where the storage sheds are that they're fed off of a separate line. They don't go through the meter, through the pump houses, I mean. So those wouldn't be affected either way we do it. So that one involves a whole new, it's basically on a slab, they roll it in, you plug it in, you're good to go. It would involve, they said it would still involve putting a concrete floor in number 3 because they want to keep the pressure tanks in case we ever needed them. If you're building this, I'm hoping you should never need them, and I think we could save putting the concrete floor in and everything on both of them if we do that, so. So to make number 1 meter house just to hold meters, it would make number 3 meter house just to hold meters, and there'd be some, we'd have to do some weather damage repair to that meter house number 1 to make it, a decent building still. So. Alternative 1B was $192,000. This is building a new wooden structure and with a skid that has the pumps and VFDs and everything on it that go into the building. So it'd be a separate building versus a prepackaged entire thing. Other than that, it's the same as 1A at a savings of $170,000. So to me, that's a no-brainer. Which one of those 2 we'd go with? Same thing. We wouldn't have to do the concrete floors or anything. They would become meter houses only going forward. This alternative number 2 involves in making meter house number 3, which is the best and newest building of all of them, making that the actual pump house. To do that involves running a 6-inch main line up to that meter house. It would do away with all the pumps in meter house number 1. So that would become a pump house on one side. That would then become a meter house again. Just a meter house. It'd be new pumps, controls up in number 3. New concrete floor there, and again, still have to do the damage repair to the meter house in number 1. The third alternative was $225,000. That included the demolition of meter house number 1 and construction of a new pump station in that spot. It's below grade and would need to be raised, so the finished floor would be 6 inches above grade. Still involves the demolition of meter house number 1 and the construction of the new pump station. That one costs more because, like I said, the constraints of the space you have there and involving with everything that's underground right there for all the lines are run. So Dufresne recommended option number 1A, which would be the building a new wooden pump house and bringing in the skid with pumps skated and VFDs right on them. I agree that would be the best option for what was presented, for what they had. So between our last meeting and this meeting, I met with Andrew Ferguson from the Drinking Water Division, who happens to live in Johnson. He's not a ratepayer for water, but he lives in the town, and he agreed, and he looked at that engineering and said, that's way too much money. And so I said, all right, so what do we need to do? We went up and spent about 3 hours up there last week. If we don't change flow or capacity, which means if we don't change the pump sizes, and we don't change the pressure tanks in there, that we get away from getting the state involved in a permit to construct. After talking with him, talking with Tim and my other employee down here, I think we can do all the work to rehab that building, and number 3, to make it so that it passes the sanitary survey. And it's good going forward. So what I'm proposing is HO employees would perform the necessary upgrades during normal working hours. The village would pay for materials and any outside contractor work. There would be some plumbing, some electrical that would have to be done by contractors that we can't do. We need to remove a pressure tank and pump that are no longer used in number 1. They're in there now, but they've just been disconnected and sitting there. We need to sleeve all of the meter lines and pour concrete floor in both meter houses 1 and 3. This would entail extensive plumbing work, because as you saw by the picture, it's just been added onto, and it needs to be totally redone. I mean, they make meter banks that you put on the wall where they're all lined up. You know, you plumb them in, so it gives you a workable space in there. Right now, you trip over pipes as soon as you walk through the door. So it would be redoing everything inside of there and doing it right. We use the existing building and just rehab it. Needs a new roof, needs soffits, a little repair on the outside. The inside is dry as a bone. You know, the studs, the inside sheathing, insulation, all that is good.
We have to find a contractor to do that, though, that part of it.
No, we'll do it. No, we can do that. So it'd be rehabbing the building, new roof, soffits, paint, etc. Number 1. Here's where it gets a little tricky. There's a pump and a pressure tank that comes from a well and goes to that main house and garage that is now owned by Ship 7. I believe, according to Nate, it's owned by Ship 7.
What is Ship 7?
They own Katie Wing Park. They own a slew of trailer parks.
Oh.
And they're a slumlord.
Mm.
I've had dealings with them, and I'll be perfectly honest with you. They're not good people.
Where are they out of?
Yes, either Williston or Colchester, somewhere like that. Or South Carolina, I can't remember exactly which one. So that is in that meter house. That is a liability to the village. If one of those lines blew apart and it could take out every pump, motor, electrical, and everything in there, it costs us thousands and tens of thousands of dollars in a hurry.
And that's not ours.
It's not ours. I think that was original, and then when they started adding the trailer park, we'll just enclose it all in.
So it goes to Maris's old house,
Sure.
the yellow.
Yes, and the garage.
Yep.
So we have 2 meters in there that we meter their sewer off of that. So we do meter what goes off of their well, but we can put those meters anywhere whether they move it. I think they need to move that tank and pressure tank out of there as part of
Do
this.
we need them to be cooperative on this? Do we have to get attorneys
That would be the
involved?
best way to do it, obviously, is if they would be cooperative.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, if not, push comes to shove, I think we have every right to
Okay,
force them to get it out. I mean, it's a liability to us that, you know, we have no control over.
Would
So
we have to do that work, or would they be responsible?
I would make them responsible for that work. I would not touch somebody else. And right now, unfortunately, it's all hooked in. It's, you know, in the same building. So
So
it's not
until
hooked to
we-
our system.
Until we fix our stuff, there's nothing that can be done about that?
It could be done anytime if you wanted to
I mean, all they
Put the
simply
pressure
have,
on.
all they simply have to do is make a connection there and move their pressure tank down.
move the pressure tank and pump, and they'll have to build a building or something for it, you know. But that's, again, I think that's something we should make a decision on tonight and pursue. Because it needs to be done regardless. So we would also have to move all the meters, simplify the unorganization in that building. There's lots of plumbing in-house that we could do to do that. You know, we might need some plumbing expertise from a contractor to finish some of it. We'd move all of the meters to the walls, reroute the feed and discharge piping, so you clean up the area and can actually, you know, move in there. We need to slope the drainage around the building to get it above the 6-inch grade. We can bring the floor up about 1.5 feet. So it only means we got to bring it down just about that 6 inches, and it slopes naturally this way. So it's, all we got to do is just kind of swale it around. So it drains around and you got 6 inches of free wall, which is easy enough to do with a bobcat, you know. We would, the other thing we'd have to do is sleeving the pipes is tricky because you're gonna have to sleeve through a concrete floor and down 4 feet below frost. And we're talking, we should put a couple stubs in so that if, say, one breaks under that slab, we can then go and we'd put in extras in there. the park's not gonna grow, but it'd be a whole lot easier replacing it, because otherwise you have to chisel out your concrete floor, so, it's things like that. And here's the uncertain part of it, is the price tag. The engineer quoted $3,000 concrete for each building. Plumbing and materials would be extensive. We could reuse the meters, obviously. We would reuse all of the pumps and tanks. We could, I think we can rehab the building cost for $100,000. I mean, there's not a lot to it. It's plywood and metal roof, you know. It's the labor part of it. And like I said, that we can provide the labor. So we could include this, if we could include this in the 2023 budget, hopefully we could avoid a bond with the new rate structure, if we can swing it. Me and Tim did a quick crunch of the numbers, and I think we're looking at 25 to 30K to do it, 25 to 30,000, you know. I don't want to underestimate, it's a huge project for us to take on, but I think it's something we can do. And Andrew said, you know, as long as we're due for another sanitary survey this spring, probably February, they'll be contacting us. As long as we have a plan at that point, you know, that's all they'll be happy, and we'll get through the next sanitary survey. So, because we obviously won't have a budget passed or anything at that point next spring yet. So, but
So we're looking at a year from now, if we get all our ducks in a row, starting this. Or
yes. So here's another flip side of this. The well pump that we ordered for down here is a spare, so that then we can discontinue native well. They quoted us the wrong pump the first time. And this was Menage, we pulled it up right out of their drawings. So that looks like it's going to come in about $6,000 less than what originally was quoted.
So less than 25.
Yeah, it's 18 and change.
Oh,
So
how often does that happen?
never.
yeah, exactly. I'm shocked.
Happens, they're never gonna tell.
So we're also using ARPA funds to balance our budget this year. So the choice is yours if you wanted us to take some of that savings and start rehabbing the building, let's say, you know, it needs a roof on it, you know, we know it needs that stuff, you know, and not get into the plumbing end of it, but get into the basics of what we know we're gonna have to do anyways.
Roof, siding.
Exactly, or do we wait and do it all at once next year? You know,
Who knows what next year's gonna bring, so if you end up with an open window sometime this year.
So if we do go at option 4, will the volume at that park change?
No.
So there's no
we're
more
using the
lots
same
available.
pumps, we're using the same pressure tanks, we're not changing.
Correct, but there's no more lots available in that park.
That I'm not sure about.
I
I
think
don't think there is.
there's like 10 empty, correct?
Is there?
I
That's,
believe so. So the volume is accounting for every lot there, is what I'm saying.
and we've never had a complaint of low pressure up there,
Yeah.
outside of when we've had a leak or something, but under normal conditions. So that's where Andrew was like, hey, bro, don't fix it.
Well, I just asked, because I'd hate to see us go with option 4 and then find out 2 years from now, we need to double the volume up there.
Right.
And then that's all wasted. So.
Right.
So
And if we did have to, you know, and increase the size of the pumps or
Mm-hmm.
pressure tanks, then you'd get a permit to construct, and but it could be done within the building. You know, if we do all this work, we can expand that. We just have to get a permit then to do it, which isn't the end of the world, you know. And we could expand it.
So say you guys did most of the labor, like you were saying, what would that be added to our budget for next year?
Labor, hopefully zero.
So you're thinking you could stay in
I
the
think we
confines
can
of
do
what
it
we
between
budget for
the
down
two guys
there?
here and me and my guy in Morrisville, when for, you know, I think we can do it within working hours. We'll figure it out and make it happen, you know.
So these expenses that we would incur are mostly for hiring a contractor to do the additional plumbing part.
And materials. I mean, copper pipe's not cheap. You know, you're talking 3-inch copper pipe.
Yeah.
You know, we can reuse the meters, but the meter banks aren't. We probably end up having to get an account like a Granite Group, you know, a good plumbing company to get stuff from, you know. So there'll be some, you know, I mean, we're figuring roughly probably $10,000 of materials alone to redo it. But in the meantime, there's some electrical there that's sketchy, to say the least. You know, we'd have to have an electrician come in and do some work in there. That's including that cost in it also. And again, I just met with him last week, so that's throwing that number out there. We feel pretty comfortable, but that's not a rock solid number.
And then you said that he believes we would not need state permit for that.
He says we will not, we do not.
And this is a positive thing.
Yep, he
We
said-
can go by what he's saying.
If you can, yeah, if you can keep this, he says, you can do all this work and not have the state involved at all.
Even if you move it,
We're not moving out.
aren't you, I thought you were moving something.
No, everything's in, everything, it's, the only thing we're moving out is ship 7 stuff.
Oh.
So, and that doesn't affect our sanitary survey part of it at all, so. No, everything otherwise, the same pumps, the same pressure tanks are gonna stay in the same buildings, so it doesn't change any of that. The number 3 building, that one's in really good shape. The outside's good, the roof's good, the inside's good. It's just a matter, we gotta bring in probably 1.5 foot of sand, because that one we step way down into. So we're gonna bring that up, or a 4-inch slab. Everything is already sleeved there. You know, that one's a really easy one to do.
So what do you do with all that stuff when you do that? Do you take everything out of it? How?
No, actually, that one's easy because everything is there's a whole shelf built, everything's built up on the shelf already, that one.
Oh,
Yeah, the main pump house one, that one's gonna be a little trickier, but we'll run all the plumbing and everything and the sleeves and everything. And then come in, the last thing you'll do is pour the floor.
yeah.
We can get a drain out, floor drain out of both of them. The one up on number 3 is gonna have to run a little ways to get down the grade enough, but I think, it'll be fine. We'll have to talk to the neighbor, but it shouldn't be an issue.
So your recommendation, Dan, is definitely option 4.
I just can't justify $192,000. I mean, I got sticker shock. And that's when me and Tim started looking hard at this and, I think it's something we can do. So. What am I?
Well, what do you need from the trustees?
I guess, number 1, do you want to start rehab, if you decide to go with number 4? And do you want, and by the way, we're covered by our insurance and everything on everything we do, so there's no issues that way. I checked with my boss and ours, and we're covered under that, so. And we do work in pump houses and everything all the time, so. If you decide to go with number 4, I guess the decision on whether you want us to start doing anything this year, there will be a bill of materials. It would be materials, it would be the only cost really. But, or if you want to wait and do it all next year. Our thought is just if we get the building done this year, it's one less thing that we have to deal with next summer.
That would be-
It's gonna be an all summer job, probably into the fall, to do it within working hours, so you don't have, we don't bill overtime and that stuff, so.
And during non-freezing season.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we can start, this time of the year, we've got till, the end of October to be done, so.
And you can handle this with, aren't you dealing also with the,
River Road Pump
River Road?
Station,
yeah,
that's gonna be a short window, though. That's gonna be, they're starting June, middle of 1st of June, they'll be done 1st of July. Should be a month and they'll be done.
And that's pretty much not much of them. That's
Well, it is. I mean, we're overseeing the whole thing.
correct, but I'm just saying for
Not the
actual
legal
labor
ones,
end,
no.
the
No.
labor end of it
No.
is contractors.
No. So, hopefully that will go smoothly.
So you're saying that if, since how the pump's 6,000 cheaper, you're gonna say we have 6,000 surplus as of right now.
Correct.
And this
And you
is,
call that a surplus, but like I said,
I said as of now,
And that money is in the budget, right, Rose?
it's already budgeted, we budgeted 25.
we budgeted 25 for that.
And this is a sure thing from Monos now.
It's
They're
ordered,
not,
and that's the quote they gave us for what they ordered.
let's
So,
pay it.
It'll take 13 to 16 weeks before we're gonna see it.
Let's pay it.
So, we won't get the bill until after that, but,
What's your estimate of what that 6,000 would do if you started doing it this year? You'd get it dried in up top.
yeah, it definitely do the building easily. And then I guess we'd have to decide, how we wanna tackle it and not get in, over that 6,000. You know what I mean? It may mean that we leave 4,000 up and don't touch it, you know what I mean? We've got to look at that more to see what we can do. It's one of those things that once you start moving stuff, you're gonna be happy with it all.
Yep.
There will be points where we're gonna have to shut water off to make connections. That we'll deal with when we do it. We can do that unit by unit. So you can do, one day, one next, and let them know. And it shouldn't be, an hour out of service, with the water. So it's not gonna be a major hindrance.
Would we have to do a boil water? Would you?
Being that it goes strictly from the meter to that one place,
Go
no,
flush and
no, so.
This sounds like really good news to me, Dan, but I'm not gonna get.
It sounds good to me too. Like I said, I'm not gonna understate what a job it's gonna be, but I think we can do it.
And
I
what
think
were
it's
you,
the smart thing to do
what were you estimating the cost of that one
for,
for option 4?
I think I get in there. I think we figured between 25 and 30K. And like I said, that's a rough, we gotta.
So even if we were at 50, we're still saving $100,000.
Right, and I checked with the state and basically the best possible finance package you're gonna get is 40%. So that 196 is still gonna be 120. Our cost. So they said that the free money is just not out there for, like it used to be. I mean,
So is there free money for the 25 to 30? No, because it's under a certain amount.
well, to do that, you have to have it engineered. And that's where you get into.
That's where the money.
They're taking 20% of this right off the top, the engineers are. So, that 196, they're making 40 grand.
Yeah.
They're making the cost of what's gonna cost us to do this, so.
I mean, I think we've got to pretty much put our weight behind what Dan's suggesting. I mean, I can understand the construction side of it. I'd actually, from the size of the building, I mean, I haven't actually gone up and looked at the roof. I haven't looked to see what would need for repairs, but the size of that building, you could do quite a bit of rehab for $6 grand.
Oh, God, yeah. We can easily, I don't think we're anywhere near that.
Well, no, I'm just saying, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think that would easily, like you said, take care of
Yeah.
that problem.
Right, and then that gives us a good, we don't have to worry about that part. Come next spring, we pass it in April, we can basically start.
And then as far as the ground sloping, we should easily be able to get it.
I think the village with the Bobcat,
You know,
we could
I'm
probably.
sure Nate could come up with a
Yeah.
couple hours to be
Oh,
able to
yeah,
get
it would
somebody
take,
up there.
and it's not a lot, it really isn't. So I don't think there's a whole lot there.
Well, there'll be,
Be a lot
seed-
easier with Bobcat.
there'll be some stone so it won't wash or seed and mulch.
Right.
So,
Yep, but overall, that's small dollars.
are we looking for a motion, Mr. Chair?
We're looking for a motion.
So I would motion that we go with option 4. And, okay, the water guys to start with some sealing up weatherization of the pump house building using the estimated 6,000 up to the 6,000.
Yeah, like you said, I won't use that until we have an invoice. Yeah, things are nowadays, until we know that is, he gave us the quote, but
Mhm.
in order to.
So do you need a motion today, or would you like to get
If
that?
you want to do the motion today, then, I will not, let's put it this way, between the building rehab, I will make sure it does not go over that $25,000 for sure. How's that?
Is there a second to Ken's motion?
Second.
Is there any more discussion on Ken's motion? All in favor of Ken's motion?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. It's unanimous.
Get your tool belt out.
Thank you for,
Another thing I'd like to throw in, Mr. Chair, is that, I think either, we ought to have Rosemary or one of us get a hold of Ship 7. Have a
Yeah.
conversation with them.
okay.
Let's, do you know for sure that they own the house in the garage? I mean, we've got that, so. Okay, yeah, so, yeah, I would say that, due to liability reasons,
It's-
I can kind of craft something up and then we can proofread it. Okay.
You have their address, Rosemary?
Is that something you want to do, Rosemary, or you want one of us to try to do? I mean,
I'll craft it up if you
you're
want.
the man.
And then she can proofread it and send it.
Okay,
So I would motion that we attempt to contact Ship 7 and get their stuff out of our building as soon as possible, so we can continue with what we're doing.
Yeah, and I think that would be the easiest way to do it, say, due to liability reasons and the fact that we have to rehab everything inside of there, we need to. Oh, I'm sure there will be.
is there a second to Ken's motion?
Second.
Any more discussion on contacting Ship 7?
I mean, that seems reasonable to all of you guys, right? I
Absolutely.
mean, we don't want any liability in it.
Yeah,
Right.
once.
I think we could easily give them most of the summer to
Oh,
make
yeah,
it
I mean, yeah,
happen and
you
even
could give them
into the
6
fall,
months,
you know, so I don't,
They need to.
So, yeah,
and if it's not them, then I guess we'll have to figure it out.
I can move it.
I think that'd be a liability if we don't take it.
No, and hopefully they'll understand that.
Yeah.
All in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Aye. Again, it's unanimous. The motion passes.
Thank you, Dan.
Thank you, Dan.
You made that short and sweet.
Yeah, I didn't think it would be that short. So there you go.
I was actually gonna email you and see if you had that discussion with him.
Yeah, no, I think it helped that honestly that he's a Johnson resident. He went right down to exactly what the letter of law stated, so
Well, you can tell him we greatly appreciate his help.
we'll do. Think I'm all set then?
I think you're out of here.
Thanks, guys.
Yep.
Thanks a lot.
The next item on the agenda is going to be the discussion from the three candidates for replacing Will's seat on the board. I decided to do this in the order that they came in. So BJ would be first, I believe Jenna's second. Unfortunately, Kyle, yours, I didn't see a date or time on it, but I think it was last.
I think Jenna's was actually last.
Pardon?
Jenna's was actually
Oh,
last.
then we'll switch that around. So how we're going to do this is every candidate can make a statement if they choose to, and then the board can ask, each of us can ask one or two questions, and then anyone from the public can add a statement, a short statement of support, 1 minute. There's not going to be any debate or any negative between any of the candidates or any of the public. And then we're going to go into executive session to discuss how we're going to move forward with making this decision. One possibility is an election, and there's other possibilities, and we will come out of the executive session and let you know. So, BJ, you're up.
Hi, guys. First, I want to apologize for not being there. With the time frame I just didn't have enough time to get out of work. I feel like I'm a good candidate just because, one, I'm pretty much caught up on everything for the past year sitting on the board, everything in open meeting along with executive sessions. So I'm pretty much caught up with everything. As for me and Linda, our votes, we were only off by 5 votes. So I feel at least half of the voting population right there would have liked to have seen me back. Congratulations to Linda for winning. But a majority of the people voted to have me come back. So I definitely appreciate that. And I just want to make it short. Pretty much, I have always voted for how I feel things were, voted for what I felt was right. For things like putting a real flag up for 21 days or keeping the water fountain open, things like that. So that's pretty much it for me.
Thank you. So we'll start with you, Diane. Do you have a question
Oh, for BJ?
you'd like to address to BJ?
Let's see.
1 or 2 questions.
Yeah, I think this one is an important question. How much time do you have to work on village issues? Because we're spending quite a bit of time, so I'm just curious about that.
Yeah, that's fine. Pretty much all the time everybody else has. I have jobs like everybody else does, and I've made it to every meeting. I haven't missed anything. Even when I went on vacation, I made sure to Zoom in for my meetings. So my home life or nothing, I have plenty of time to dedicate to the village.
So do you think that we should be looking into hiring an economic development person? Why or why not? And what are some benefits to hiring someone?
When I was on the board, as I said, when I was on the board, I didn't vote for it or against it. I pretty much said I would leave that up to the public to decide. I don't have a strong feeling one way or another. I don't care really if the manager ends up doing it or if it's somebody separate. I just feel that's a vote for the town, not a personal vote.
I didn't hear that last part, sorry.
Oh, I feel that's a vote for the town members. I don't feel that's a personal vote.
Okay. So what do you think some of the benefits would be of hiring somebody? Do you think there would be some?
Whether we hire a manager that does it or a person specifically for that, of course there would be advantages because they'd be able to get grants for things that we are looking for with the town to help us with money.
Do you want to ask one more question, Diane?
And I know you've been on for a year, but can you tell us what your vision is for the village?
My vision for the village is to prosper, to move forward along with everyone else, basically, to make going down Main Street, make sure that it looks nice, make sure that businesses and everything are prospering.
And how would you go about having that happen?
Me specifically, it would be when things come up to vote and to vote the right way with it.
Okay, I'm gonna turn it over to Linda.
What would be your number one goal for the village?
Number one, what I feel personally, the number one goal for the village is to get a foreman and a manager as soon as humanly possible, to just try to fix that. And then after we get that, to try to figure out our employment or employee issues, put out things for harassment and try to get something in line so that our employees have some kind of guideline to follow. And then that way they can take the steps, the correct steps, instead of feel pretty much like they have nowhere to go.
How would you go about forming those guidelines?
Oh, that would definitely be a sit down. I feel that would be a board thing. That would be all of us on a board sitting down and going over harassment and steps, just like a union would have, write-ups and what the consequences would be. So it's definitely not one person. That's going to be a whole board thing.
Do you think that, given the circumstances, do you think the board is able to put those kind of things in place without sort of prejudging what has already happened? You know, without, I mean, we kind of have a background of what's been going on. And
Yeah,
so
I
we sort of have a blinder on us, I should say, we sort of have a blinder on us to what has happened and how we think we would solve it. You think that's an issue?
and that's actually a good question. With a lot of the board here having a background, either being owners of businesses or in a position of supervising people, I honestly feel that the board is diverse enough to where we could all sit down and come up with a plan. And I feel that if it got to a point to where all of us just could not agree with it, we could definitely bring somebody in on the outside. But I honestly think the whole board as a whole are pretty much on the same page with each other on these situations, dealing with our employees.
One more question. Already, I've only been back a couple of days, and already I've spent 2 days going, making phone calls and going and looking at things. Do you see yourself being able to do that? Because sometimes I'm finding out that sometimes you got to take time during the week to run around and take care of some of this stuff that you can't do at night after work. Are you available for that kind of thing?
Yeah, actually, I am. I did it for a year. I also was vice chair, and before I actually got done, I actually was talking to Will and seeing if he needed me to help out and try to take anything off his plate. Yeah, when it comes to the community as a whole, to me, that's a priority over other things. So yeah, I would not hesitate to be part of a committee to help things out, or a merger committee or any of that. I will always volunteer for things like that, and I will always help to the best of my ability.
Communication is another, and I see it everywhere. It's not just here, it's lots of places you go. Communication is always something people complain about. How do you feel about communicating with, one, other board members, and two, the community in general?
I honestly don't think I've had an issue. You would have to ask individual board members if they've had an issue with me. We've had heated topics. We've had situations where we all do not agree. I personally feel overall, it's been pretty respectable, and I hopefully feel that other board members felt like I treated them with respect, even if their thoughts or votes were different than mine.
All right, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And you got some questions for BJ?
BJ, you mentioned you were on the merger committee. How many meetings did you guys have?
I think we had 3.
And then we're during the week.
Yes. Me and Steve.
During the week, and approximately how many hours?
Steve may be able to answer this too. I think a couple hours, maybe.
And during your first 3 meetings, you guys come back with a lot of numbers for us to crunch, which helped out a lot, correct?
Yeah, we gave you scenarios and everything. It was definitely a team effort between with me and Steve, and then 2 members of the select board.
Let's see, what else was it? Yeah, I guess that's pretty much it.
Thank you, Ken. I only really have one question, BJ, which kind of centers around how many hats you wear. And it's the kind of thing where everybody doesn't think it's going to be a problem until it is. So we may be dealing with some the after effects of that. So I guess my question is, if you were the person appointed or elected to the board, would you consider giving up some of your other jobs that might come in conflict with being a member on the board?
That's a good question, Steve. Thank you. Yeah, absolutely. When I first started, one of the things that I was hit with is because I own a business, because of my work, could I make the meetings? And as you guys know, I made all the meetings. When we had special meetings, I made those. When we had merger meetings, I made those. I made time. If it come down to the trustee board or doing animal control or health officer, I would give up those if that interfered with the board being on as a trustee on the board, because in my heart, basically, I would rather be a trustee and represent the village, and that holds more weight than the other positions do to me. But I've been able for the past year to do them all and make all the meetings and do everything that was assigned to me. So I personally don't feel there will be any issues, but I absolutely would, if it became an issue, I would put the board over that.
Thank you. Just one follow to that is the other thing that I've heard talk of, and I don't really know much about it, but it's the possibility of you working as a quasi, like not as a sheriff's deputy, but doing patrol work for the RVs in, or the ATVs in town. So
Yes.
that's where I see there could be one of the potential conflicts.
Well, that's where a lot of, I believe, and I can't speak for the select board, I believe a lot of misconceptions is that position is a law enforcement position where it's not, it's an ordinance position. To where you're dealing with town ordinances, you're not out being law enforcement, pulling people over, giving tickets, and we'll have to deal with the public that way. It's basically almost doing what we do right now as animal control and health officer, because we're dealing with ordinance violations. We'll just be able to have more of a power by just doing a ticket. So if somebody doesn't do anything health officer wise, we could give them a ticket and they would have so long to do it. Where right now we're telling them that they have to do it and there's nothing to backing us up. So I think there's a misconception with that, and I could be wrong. But I think it's going to go to the point of being an ordinance enforcement, not really a law enforcement.
Yeah, I still have a problem. I see that there could be, whatever you call it, that you as a trustee are wearing a kind of a different hat. And I just see that as a potential problem.
Okay, can I ask you something, Steve? With that, I've been wearing them hat for the past year, and has it interfered with my job? Because I would still be doing the same job. I'm still animal control and health officer.
I'd just like to throw in there, Steve, that it is a weekend patrol. It's not a daily patrol. It's not a solid day patrol, just so you understand that.
Okay.
And it's approximately 3 hours a day, once a weekend.
What kind of?
But we're basically doing the same thing. I would still consider.
Odds are they aren't using the constable.
Right. Because our health officer and our animal control is under that constable banner. So we are more or less that already. It would just add one more thing that we could do under the animal control and health officer banner. But as I said before, if there was a conflict and it did come between, hey, you are either on the trustees or you have to do this because of some kind of conflict, the board would win out.
Thank you. All right, now I'm going to open it up to members of the public. If you want to, you could make a 1-minute statement in support of BJ. Does anyone wish to do that? Gordy.
I respect all you people in the board, and I'm going to speak from an older board about 3 years ago, just for a past experience. When you go into executive session, you can take this for what it's worth. And when you come out, I will respect whatever you guys decide. Now, 3 years ago, we had one of the trustees didn't finish his term, and he resigned, and there was an open spot, and he had beaten out another person similar to this last race, a good honest race. Like, it wasn't 5 votes, a little bit more than that, but it was like some vote, but it was a good close margin. and there was 2 or 3 people that wanted to be the trustee in that position. And there was discussion on whether you like the person that was not the one voted or take the person that had the most votes. I remember one of the different trustees said, this person has been on the board, or hasn't been on the board, and he wants to be on the board. So and the people in the community have voted almost a majority. So we, as the other trustees, thought it was a good idea to honor the voters of the village. And through the discussion, we did appoint, in fact, it was Phil Wilson. He turned out to be a good person, trustee, but he was the one that, Bob Sweets and design, I believe. Phil was the one who ran against them in a race a year earlier. So we, as a board, we decided to go with the voters for our second choice. That's what I'll say for BJ for support. Thank you.
Thank you, Gordy.
Thanks, Corey.
Is there anyone else who would like to make a short comment in support of BJ? Seeing none, we'll move on to Kyle. You have a statement you want to make, Kyle?
I thought I would just read the letter that I sent to the board. That's okay. First, I just want to say that it's a real honor to be here as a woman, given what's going on in the national scene. And I think it's just, yeah, more important than ever that support women. I'm just going to read my letter. It said, Dear Village Trustees, I'm writing to express my sincere interest in the vacant trustee position. In 1979, when I was only 2 weeks old, I moved to Johnson from just over yonder in Eden. From an early age, my parents taught me the importance of using one's position to help lift up others. They also taught me the important lessons of ethics and civics and upholding democracy for the greater good of the whole. 42 years later, these are the life lessons I still proudly live by in practice. I was raised in a large, racially and culturally diverse family and attended Johnson Elementary and Memorial Union High School. I traveled and lived in many countries and cities as a young person, but always knew I wanted to raise my family in Johnson and use my perspective and experiences to make it a better place. In 2013, after a decade in New York City, my family made that move back to the great village of Johnson and took over the ownership of the studio store. I quickly joined Johnson Works as a new business owner, and 3 years later was elected president, a position I held for almost 5 years. My biggest accomplishments while serving on that board were using my social media marketing and PR skills to put all Johnson businesses on a virtual map, making the holiday jubilee bigger and better for hundreds of families to enjoy, and helping realize the Buy Local Yocal campaign that encouraged local spending. I also created a new Johnson Works website, an annual mass holiday mailing in collaboration with MVU and the post office, built community partner relationships, and acted as a liaison between Johnson Works, the select board, and county and state leadership to strengthen our local and creative economy. In 2015, I was elected onto the select board, a position I held for 6 years. During that time, I learned a great deal about how local government works, charters and state statutes, open meeting laws, budgets, infrastructure, equipment, managing employees and volunteers, and working collaboratively. I also took advantage of the VLCT workshops and learning opportunities for municipal leadership. In addition to Johnson Works and the select board, I have served on many subcommittees, including form-based code, the Brownfields area-wide Railroad Street Plan, and merger study. Currently, I serve as the chair of the beautification committee and am part of a citizen-based LCSD group. I also attend almost every trustee and select board meeting for years, participate in the racial justice committee meetings, and regularly volunteer for various town committees, and have worked collaboratively on grants for our community spaces. In short, all my time and energy, personally and privately, has been almost completely village-based for 9 years. And as a stakeholder, I have vision for my community that I hope will make it a place people want to move to, visit, study, and set up shop. My understanding of the challenges in front of the trustees is comprehensive, but I know I still have more to learn and will eagerly and actively do that with an open mind and heart. Tough decisions for the financial viability and vitality of the village will be challenging, but it's a challenge I'm ready to face for the rest of the board and our constituents. Collaboration is one of my strengths, and I see many opportunities that could be further explored with the select board and our community partners. In conclusion, I believe I have the experience, vision, and community spirit to be an effective village trustee. It will be an honor to roll up my sleeves and work with you all and move the village forward in a positive, stable direction.
Thank you, Carl. So again, I'll start with you, Diane.
Do we have to ask the same questions?
Would only be fair.
Yeah. Well, okay, yeah, sure.
So how much time do you have to work on village issues?
A lot. Like I said in my letter, I'm already attending the meeting, so that's part of it. And I have a practice of going home and looking up things that were talked about in the meeting, lots of research. Like I said, I'm very familiar with VLCT, so I'm constantly on the website. Yeah, it's because I live in the village, have a business in the village, have children going to school in the village, it's always on my mind. So it's something that I put a lot of time and effort into, and obviously continue to. Try to
And what is your vision for our village, and how would you improve the village?
So I have many visions for the village. It's not just one. I have vision in terms of how I feel the government part could work more efficiently and better. Given what I've seen and heard, I feel like there's a lot of work to be done in terms of dismantling old dynamics and rebuilding a more positive, inclusive, and honest way. So that's, and I see there's many things that need to happen in that regard. In terms of prosperity for taxpayers and ratepayers, this village is a great one to already live in, but of course there always can be improvements in terms of, like we heard today, infrastructure for quality of life, and also for business owners, just supporting however we can to continue to have businesses that are already there to thrive and to attract new ones. I also see so much potential with our larger institutions and more collaboration there. And then as a community, I think there's so much, I have so much vision of all of us, doing more to work together to uplift each other, to bring, more things to do, more arts, more beautification thing. So I have a lot of vision. It's kind of endless, to be honest.
So my next question was, should we be looking into hiring an economic development person? Why are we not? And what are the benefits?
Yes, definitely. And I did vote for the community development position, both on the town and the village side. I think it's so important to have someone dedicated to looking for those grant opportunities. And now there are so many out there that really lift us up, both from an infrastructure point of view, from an economic development point of view. I've done some of that already in my own way, to bring grants for the village and to the town and to implement them. I think if we have someone that is hired to do that, we could bring so much more in. So super important.
I think those were my questions.
Diane. Linda?
In what way would you move Johnson forward? How do you see Johnson moving forward?
So like I said before, I think that, obviously I don't know everything on this side, but from what I've heard and seen, there's a lot of damage control that needs to be done. In terms of what's been going on with employees, with lack of leadership and management, and lack of stability in general. So those things absolutely need to be addressed, and that might mean taking some steps back to move forward. So I would, do my best to be one of five to make that process go smoothly. From an economic point of view, I think again, this economic development position could be extremely helpful in moving the village forward. This village has almost $200,000 sitting in a revolving loan fund that never gets tapped into. I think that some of my PR and communication skills could help get that word out there, and I could be, helpful with the business community that way. And then doing, whatever I can with the board to show, that we are a welcoming community. And that starts with what happens in this room and how we treat each other, and how and the demanding a level of decency and respect. And I hope that those reverberations would translate out into the community.
Thank you. And so because of the newspaper, you know about the employee situation that's going on. What steps would you take to try to resolve that?
Yeah.
Is that one of the questions that?
Yeah, I did. I asked BJ the same thing.
Yeah, I'm deeply troubled by what I'm reading, and would again tap into some of the resources that I think are out there for village and town municipalities, with the state and with the LCT. It seems like there may be a good case to be made for bringing another party in to help do some mediating and facilitating. It's shocking how few policies the village has, especially compared to the town. So policies need to be written, and the LCT has many models out there, boilerplate models that we could use and customize. So those need to be looked into immediately and adopted and put into action. Again, I don't know all the details, but it seems like there's going to need to be a lot of work done in mediation, preparation, and moving forward, so that we're not recreating the same culture that.
That's it for me. Thank you.
Ken?
My question that I asked doesn't pertain to her, so I will ask another question. And this is in regards to the letter that you sent to the select board. You just recently stated that you were into fixing situations, taking steps back to move forward. So is that what you would call, and I'll quote, the strategic toxic cronyism that the Johnson leadership needs to take a hard stance against? Now, them comments were made towards two sitting trustees at the time. So I'm kind of confused as to how you're going to work with the board when you are doing exactly what you're saying that the board needs to work on. Do I need to read the whole letter that you sent to the select board? Would that help?
Yeah, so
To sum it up, Kyle, you said that one trustee who's in a club and the other trustee who is an appointed constable, that there's no way that either one of them two trustees could be trusted or be trustworthy to carry out the position. So you just stated that the board has issues with creating conflicts. How is that not creating conflict being in the public forum?
I'm going to not answer that question. I don't think it's.
Well, I think it's exactly important because it's my question, so.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, I think she needs to answer the question because it's an upfront, straightforward comment.
It's a fair question, I believe, but you don't have to answer it. I mean, that's your prerogative. It's,
I'm saying nothing.
As I thought, you couldn't do it, is what you're telling us.
Ken, do you have another question you want to ask?
No, that was it. I only asked one for BJ, so.
My question kind of is a follow-up in some ways to Ken. I just am concerned about that the board right now really needs stability, people that can compromise, people that have different viewpoints that can work together. And that's kind of my concern with you, Kyle, that you have tremendous energy for the village, but sometimes it seems like to me that your tactics and methods kind of tend to not create cooperation. That's end of there.
Are you planning to ask this question of everyone? Because I thought you only could ask the same questions to everyone.
Point of order, Mr. Chair.
Okay, I'll ask Jenna that same question.
What about Ken's inappropriate question? He did not
Point of
ask
order,
that.
Mr. Chair. It isn't time for the public question.
Speaking out of turn, you'll have a chance when we get to the public. You'll have 1 minute.
Steve, I didn't hear a question, actually, I heard a statement.
My question is, what specifically can you do to create cooperation on the board and to help us move out of this difficult situation and move forward?
Yeah. So I will bring my 6 years of experience with the select board to this position, which, like I stated, I've taken many workshops, I've taken trainings that the LCT offers for new board members. And I will continue to listen, ask questions, create, think outside the box. And I think those are all great ways to work with people.
Thank you, Kyle. So I'm going to open it up to the public now. Is there anyone who would like to take a minute to speak in support of Kyle's candidacy? Jackie?
I'm wholeheartedly.
You aren't a village resident though, correct?
That's correct.
Uh-huh. All right, I'll give you a minute anyway, but is there anyone else who's a village resident who wants to speak positively about Kyle? All right, you can have 1 minute, Jackie.
If it helps, I lived in the village for 17 years. That's why I moved up to the town. Kyle is, kind of speaks for himself. Her knowledge base, her skills are just extraordinary. She's the first one to show up, to step up, to serve the community in myriad of ways. She just has a ton of skills. She's completely grounded in her own values. She has a deep respect for the democratic process. I think she would be a huge asset to this board, and I hope they consider it.
Thank you, Jack. So I guess, Jenna, it's your turn.
I'm here because I care very much about this place where we live. I think there should be many chairs filled with people who care about this place, who want to be a part of this. I went to Johnson State, I graduated in 1998, and I never left because this was a warm and welcoming place. At times recently, I haven't necessarily felt that way, but I still am an optimist. That will never change. And I'm here to say, I was a trustee for a very short amount of time. Some of you might remember that situation. And I am here because I still care about this place and I want to make a difference. I will always vote with fact-based information. And I really want to be able to move forward, like you're talking about the collaboration piece. That is absolutely key. This town, much like other ones, have a host of issues. I think a lot of the issues that we have really come from the top down. We're talking about like the federal government all the way down to the states, all the way down to towns. We can do something about it. We can be better. We can do better.
Thank you, Jenna. So Diane, you got a question for Jenna?
Jenna, how much time do you have to work on village issues?
I work full-time as a preschool teacher, but I can likely talk to my employer if I need some flexibility around certain issues with visiting locations and things like that.
And should we look into hiring an economic development person?
100%. Any money that is spent on a staff person like that, and who will reap the rewards, that should have been an easy vote.
And what is your vision for our village, and how would you improve our village?
In the rather immediate future, we definitely need to fill positions of parents position. And more in the long term, we need to support things like the college. Those are things that really help identify this place, and we need to make sure that those things are functional and active and engaging and bringing people from around the world to this place.
Thank you, Diane.
In what way would you move the village of Jennison forward?
I think it starts with having functional boards, so select boards, trustee boards that are working together and taking into account, the public's input on things. The public also should, just as a side note, really address things in the forum of a meeting, so people can come and address entire boards rather than directing their desires to individual people on boards. But that being said, I think that it really starts with boards being functional, listening to your public, and taking all the facts into account, making really perfect decisions.
I'm sure you read all the employee issues that are going on in the paper. What is your take on solving that problem?
I would say an outside professional who is totally unbiased could come in and do some fact finding and really take into account all of the little details and the broader picture and really get a sense of what's going on there to remedy that.
And in what way would that solve things? That might
Because
narrow down the problem.
Yeah, if you have someone who doesn't know all of the things in the paper, for example, then you can have someone who's really looking at it from, we're just looking at facts, we're coming in and gathering information and making a determination from that.
I think that was it.
Thank you, Linda.
Thank you.
Thank you. And you got a question for Jenna?
Again, my question doesn't pertain to the first one that I asked, so first I'd like to say, Jenna, thank you for being a preschool teacher. I have one daughter that has a master's in special needs and works at Woodville Elementary. And my youngest daughter works at Tulare School in the backpack program with special needs children.
I actually I left Laraway after 11 plus years in that same program.
Great. Well, you probably know my mother, Ralph and Joanne Burns.
I may.
So they took a lot of kids from there, but not to get into any details, but so you resigned as trustee after a short period, you said, correct?
I did. Mhm.
So what would you say that would make us want to appoint you or the public if it goes to a vote after leaving such a short period of time?
That was due to some pretty significant actual like safety concerns that I had. You know, when you have someone show up at your house.
Again, I didn't want you to get in. What would make a good reason for us to?
But the situation is such that it did happen, and I have never personally identified that individual ever, because I do believe that people can learn and grow and educate themselves, and everyone should have the grace to be able to do that. So I ultimately did have to choose to resign. That was for family reasons, so that I wouldn't put them through that.
So that would be your reasoning to be reelected or appointed.
My reason to be reelected would be to finish the job that I started, with the understanding and the vocal representation from the trustees themselves that when we have issues to bring to the trustees, that it's done in this type of forum versus these individual conversations that have to be documented and recorded that make people feel really uncomfortable and question what is happening. That is not acceptable. It's not acceptable here. It's not acceptable anywhere. People deserve to have privacy, to have their home and their yard and have that be a sacred place. That was unacceptable. And that's why I took the stance that I did.
Okay, so you didn't answer my question. Why would it be a reason for you to be reappointed?
Finish the job that I started,
Okay.
and that you all could help really reinforce the idea that this is where conversation happens.
Good.
Is that it, Ken?
Yeah.
Again, it's hard for me to craft a question exactly, to be fair to Kyle, but it's just a similar question, like other stressful situations could come up and do all the time in this job. And my concern is just that we don't have control over that, and that you would be able to deal with that one. That type of situation. I guess this is it's not really a question. I'll just say I'll pass. Thank you.
Thank you.
So I'm going to open this up to the public for anyone who wants to make a 1-minute comment. Again, I'm going to give priority to village residents. If there's anyone who is a village resident who wants to speak. And I don't see anyone on Zoom either. Okay, Jackie, you can have a minute.
Thanks, Steve. I also respect and support Jenna Lehouiller very much. I remember her short service to the town, and I really appreciate it. She was a very thoughtful member and just exemplary in many ways. And it was really unfortunate that she had to leave. Again, I was there. She was harmed. She was wronged by members of the community and members of her own trustee board, and it was really sad to watch. She conducted herself with incredible grace, and she made the right decision for herself and her family. And I think that it would be wonderful for her to have a new chance on a new board. And the board is so new. It's just so wonderful even to be able to speak Thank you so much. This board has really progressed in the past. There were, multiple open meeting law violations and community members weren't given opportunities to speak. And so it's a breath of fresh air. I feel really positive about this trustee board and thank you all.
Thank you, Jack. Is there anyone else who would like to speak regarding Jenna's candidacy?
My hand is raised on Zoom.
Pardon? Who is that, please?
Jennifer.
Jennifer.
Yep, I wholeheartedly support Jenna's return to the board, as she stated, so she can finish the job that she started with a different, new, supportive board. I really hope that you will all vote for Jenna. I believe she belongs on this board and will do a wonderful job. Thank you for allowing me to speak.
Thank you. Is there anyone else? With that, I'm going to entertain a motion to go into executive session.
Excuse me, I think there's a hand up.
Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, it's, is that Rick Opperly?
Oh, is that what it's-
Yeah, yes, it is. Yes, it is. And I would also like to speak on Jenna's behalf. I fully support her as a trustee. I worked with Jenna for a number of years on the development committee at Laraway. She was compassionate, she was thoughtful, she was energetic, and she was an asset to our community. In an effort to move forward, which is what this board, several people have asked question. I also want to say that when Jenna resigned, it was because she did not have the support of the trustees. She submitted a letter, she asked for help, and instead, that letter was withheld from the public, and her request of the board for support in a situation when she was a new board member was not honored and was not respected and was not shared with the public. And so I firmly believe that it is in the best interest of the board moving forward to appoint Jenna to this position in order to make progress. Thank you.
Thank you, Rick. Is there anyone else who would like to speak? Seeing none, I'm going to entertain a motion to go into executive session so that the board can discuss this further, and we will when we come out, we will tell you what happened. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. So Ken, do you have the statement to read?
I moved to enter executive session for discussions of appointment under VSA section 313A3.
Is there a second to Ken's motion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. So the board will now go into executive session. And we'll come and get you as soon as we've made a decision.
We could just go in there.
That's what.
Oh,
Okay.
is that what? Okay.
No, let's just
Just be easier.
Sure.
It's much
No.
easier.
Waiting. The board is basically split. We could not come to an agreement, so we're going to have an election to determine the outcome of this. And so Rosemary, can you set a date, warn it, and make the arrangements for that?
Yeah.
Please?
If people will, if people need to make a do consent form 6 weeks before the election.
6 weeks it has to be?
And so we can have a meeting, election, at least 6 weeks.
Okay, that's what we have to do. You hear that, BJ? BJ?
Yep. Yeah, I heard it.
So we're looking at around June, the middle of June.
So do they have to fill out a form, whoever wants to run, whoever wants to be on the ballot, start sort from scratch?
Yes.
It's not really a form, it's just
Well,
signing your
That
name.
consent
to
form.
Yeah, consent.
it. Yeah.
Rosemary, what's the average cost of an election?
Probably $500,
That's for printing ballots.
printing ballots, mailing out ballots.
So this is just mail out ballots as far as requested.
Yeah. $500.
And then how much is it for the people for the day?
We have to have at least 3 people for between 9 and 7.
And that's at 14
Whatever minimum wage is.
to 14.50 or?
$12.55 an hour.
That's 3 people for how many hours?
Between 9 and 7.
And if we decide to mail ballots, to everyone,
Just once that are already requested for the annual meeting, send those out.
Can we just use that list? And everyone else would come down and vote in person if they wanted to vote?
They can either, call and request one if they did it before, or they can come in and vote.
and if we decide to mail one to everybody, what is, it's like 700? The last voter roll. Actually, 6 something, I
Yeah,
believe,
it's
78.
close.
So that's 50 cents a,
It's more than 50 cents, because it's heavy, yeah, probably the second, 73 cents an alcohol.
I was just trying to
Well-
do some quick math, Steve. So
it's the price of democracy.
I think we had like 100 and some odd absentees last time.
So if we just say there was 150 absentee ballots, and you said it was what, 70?
Yeah, they 70 cents.
So we're talking over $1,000 for. So we're pushing,
So you just mail it to the
16,
ones that already
1700.
requested.
that's without mailing them out, so. Well, the absentees anyway.
So the next item on the agenda is another executive session to discuss a contract.
Was there anything after that, Steve?
Yes, the masks. I'm leaving that to.
You want to do that now so that,
Sure.
because
we'll
we're
do that
probably not
now.
taking any action on the contract, correct?
Okay.
No, I'm asking, or we probably won't be taking any action on the contract. We're just going to be offering it,
I'm
correct?
not sure if we are or not. We don't have,
It's not for Nate, it's for just the other one, right?
this is for the mediator.
Okay,
It's gonna work
not
with
Nate.
No, that, we can't do that.
I didn't think so.
Because it has to be posted for, I'm not sure how many days, so we had to take that one off tonight.
So let's just do the mask and, because there's probably not going to be any real action afterwards.
Okay. So I'm proposing a mask mandate for our meetings. I'm concerned that the numbers are up. The numbers I have are actually from my wife from the Vermont State Health Department. That we're right now the highest in the country. We were the lowest, that's per capita. And approximately 1/3 of the people that get COVID get some kind of, have some kind of an after effect. It can be mild. They don't really know. It hasn't been around for a while. So personally, for my safety and that of my family is the reason I'm proposing this. And I think it's just something that's considerate to do. So is there a?
So I'd like to.
Okay.
Real quick. So I had Rosemary print out some stuff for you. You all should have it.
Yeah.
It's from the CDC today. And it's from the Mayo Clinic yesterday.
Uh-huh.
So on here on the Mayo Clinic, it shows you, sorry, she didn't print it out for everybody, but if you want to look at it, it shows you that we are one of the second lowest counties in the state of Vermont. As far as that's from the Mayo Clinic. From the cdc.gov site today, we are down 34.45% in COVID cases, and that's testing. I just wanted to. So off the CDC site also, we are under a medium warning. For the deaths in Lamoille County, this is all up to May 1st, or the 1st of this month. We're total cases from the last 7 days, we're down 20%. Death rate, last 7 days, 0. Testing in Lamoille County, if you look at the testing results, we're down 34% in just Lamoille County in the last 7 days.
The thing about testing, Ken, is they've stopped doing most of it, so the numbers aren't accurate.
I'm just showing you what the CDC says. So unless we're smarter than the CDC or the US government or the Vermont health guy, there's nothing in any of this from May 1st that would suggest we need it. MSI has 200 employees daily, no masks. You said there was an outbreak at the little school, there's no masks.
There's
no
been
masks.
outbreaks at the elementary school, at the studio center. My mechanic got really sick, and I just heard about somebody you know tonight that got very sick.
I agree, people get it.
No, they're sick.
I agree, people get it. My stepfather died from it. I understand this. My point is, an outbreak is not what you are classifying it as. An outbreak is more than 2 people in a classroom. The school has not enacted mask mandates. The high school has not enacted mask mandates. The college has not enacted mask mandates. There's a total of 8 people in this room, approximately 5 to 7 at most of the time. Let's not be dictators. I think we should maybe put a bigger sign up that says, please wear a mask. I don't think anyone sitting up here has the right to force anybody to wear a mask when the CDC states it's not required, the state of Vermont states it's not required, and our governor. So.
Thank you, Ken.
So one of my nurses came home today sick from the hospital. They have 4 nurses out with COVID at Copley. That's a lot for them. They have COVID patients at Copley.
Yes.
It's not going away, and it's actually worse now at Copley than it was 8 months ago, 9 months ago.
That's not true.
Oh, I don't know.
My stepdad was in there, so I understand that, but that's a false statement, what you just made.
Well, all of that stuff, I appreciate you looking that up for us and stuff. But I think that when we're here, let's be generous to each other and to ourselves. And let's wear a mask while we're here.
I'm just going to state one more time.
I don't think it hurts anybody. I think it protects people. So let's do it. It's for, if we stay a half hour longer, it's for 2.5 hours. We're not asking a lot. And I know your research is really good, but let's just do it.
I'm just saying,
And I'll take
your
those
fears don't
So-
trump
so,
our
yeah.
rights. So remember that. That's all.
Can I just say something?
Yeah, absolutely.
if we didn't have a mandate and it was optional, would you consider wearing a mask?
Absolutely not, Steve.
So to you, that being more considerate to other people isn't,
It's considered, has nothing to do with violating my rights.
all right. So I don't think this discussion is going to go anywhere. I guess we're looking for some kind of a motion. We can just do a voluntary one, and then people like Ken won't have to have their rights violated.
I would like to make a motion that we request people wear a mask at the village trustee meetings.
Is there a second to that motion?
Second.
Is there any discussion on that motion?
Are you requesting or are you mandating?
Requesting.
I'm full support of that.
Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes unanimous.
We get a sign that goes on the door, so
There's
our
one down
next
there.
trustee meeting that says, please, we're requesting that you wear a mask.
Well, all right, yeah, it says
Just leave that.
advised, correct?
Pardon?
We advised to wear a mask, so we'd have to
Yeah,
rephrase it.
we're requesting.
So now we have one more item on the agenda.
Can you do that and
Yes.
change it to?
Thank you, Rosemary. One more item on the agenda is discussion of a possible contract. So I need that motion.
I'm looking for it.
It's a little different than the one
Yep.
where we went into, it's two-part, it's the two-part one, I believe.
Yep, I just put it up somewhere.
Thank you, Ken. So who would like to make this motion? It's a two-part motion. It's for a contract, so it's under this one, so it's VSA.
Oh, you want me to?
Yeah, you want to do it then?
So I move that we find premature general public knowledge of contract discussions would clearly place the village at substantial disadvantage. So I motion that we go in executive session. Is it the AF or
It's the one.
the personal matter 1 VSA section 3134? Is that correct, Rosemary? 13131.
Is there a
And we
second?
would go in with Rosemary, myself, Steve, Linda, and Diane.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 And then there's a second part, Ken.
I move to enter executive session. Is that the personal matter? It doesn't really show on that other one either. It's just. Well, I only have the attorney-client and personal matter.
I thought I had the wording for that.
We need, that's the one?
313.
Yeah, okay.
A1 capital A, a separate motion.
Yeah, so I'd move to enter executive session to discuss contract under VSA 313 A1A.
To discuss a contract with Momentum Solutions to work with the village. Is
That
there a
sound right,
second?
Tom?
Second.
All in favor of
Aye.
motion?
Aye.
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 Motion passes. So we're now going to go into executive session again. I'm not sure if we're gonna be able to have a decision this time. It would be nice if we could, but we don't have all the numbers. So I don't think we can.
I don't think there is going to be.
It's just gonna be a discussion, and we still need to get some more information before we'd actually approve a contract. So you may go home.
Okay, and somebody will just email me what time you think?
Yes.
Okay.
Kyle,
Who's Momentum Solutions?
they are she is an arbitrator. They were recommended to us by Ken Nolan from VEPSA. They have worked with them to resolve employee issues with other crews. And she has a proposal to help us with issues with our village crew.
I think, no, I think there's not gonna be any action, so we're not gonna do anything, but that is what we're discussing. Thank you very much.
Thank you for coming. Thank you, Jenna. Thank you, Kyle.